Monday, 6 a.m. Your alarm doesn't go off because there is no alarm. No phone, no fridge humming in the kitchen, no cereal box waiting on the counter. Just you, a fire pit you built yourself, and a gnawing hunch in your stomach that says, find food or don't eat today. Welcome to day one of eating like a caveman. Here's the thing nobody tells you about our Paleolithic ancestors. They weren't gnawing on mammoth legs every night like some cartoon. That's the myth. The reality is stranger, harder, and honestly, more fascinating. For roughly 2.5 million years, early humans survived on a rotating menu dictated entirely by season, geography, and luck. Some weeks it was fatty bone marrow and organ meat. Other weeks, most weeks, actually, it was roots, insects, wild greens, and whatever nuts hadn't been stolen by squirrels first. And here's a fact that should stop you mid-scroll. Anthropologists now believe early humans ate over 100 different wild plant and animal species in a single year. Compare that to today. The average American eats from a rotation of maybe 20 to 30 foods. Most of them processed, most of them engineered to hit a dopamine sweet spot our ancestors never had access to. So what would actually happen if you dropped all of that? The granola bars, the delivery apps, the flavored everything, and tried to eat only what a caveman could find, hunt or dig up for 7 straight days. Before we go further, if this kind of what if history collided with your daily life experiment is your thing, hit subscribe now, because this channel is about to run through history's most brutal survival tests, one wild premise at a time, and drop a comment. Could you last 7 days eating like this? I want to see your guess before you watch what actually happens. Now picture day 2. You wake up already lighter, not from fat loss, but from your gut adjusting to fiber. Levels modern digestive systems have basically forgotten how to handle. Nutritionists who've studied ancestral diets point out something wild. Hunter-gatherer populations, like the Hadza in Tanzania, one of the last groups, still living a semi-foraging lifestyle, today consume up to 100-150 grams of fiber a day. The average Westerner, around 15 grams? That's not a small gap. That's a canyon. By day 3 in our hypothetical caveman week, you're not thinking about Instagram. You're thinking about calories and where the next ones are coming from. This is the part historians find genuinely haunting. Our ancestors spent an estimated 5 to 6 hours a day just acquiring food, not preparing it, acquiring it, hunting, foraging, tracking, digging. Compare that to today's average grocery run, 41 minutes, according to consumer research, door to door, cart to car. That gap, from 6 hours of survival labor to 41 minutes of convenience, is arguably the single biggest shift in the human relationship with food in our entire species' history. And it happened almost entirely in the last 100 years. But here's the raw, uncomfortable truth researchers are circling back to. Our bodies never got the memo. Genetically, biologically, we are still running Paleolithic software on a modern operating system. Same insulin response, same fat storage instincts built for feast or famine cycles, same brain chemistry that lights up like a slot machine at the sight of sugar and salt. Because for 2.5 million years, that combination meant survival, not a drive-through window. So when you imagine eating like a caveman for a week, you're not just imagining a diet change. You're imagining flipping a switch on machinery that hasn't been touched in millennia and seeing what happens when 21st century convenience gets ripped away completely. Let's talk about what actually happens inside your body when you strip away everything modern, because the science here is stranger than most diet trends want you to admit. Day 1 of low-processed, high-fiber, whole food eating, your gut microbiome starts shifting almost immediately. A landmark 2014 Harvard study led by researcher Lawrence David found that switching human diets, even for just 5 days, measurably altered gut bacteria composition within 24 hours. 5 days. That's how fast your internal ecosystem reacts to what you feed it. Imagine what a full week of ancestral eating would trigger. But here's where it gets genuinely wild. Researchers studying the Hadza tribe found their gut microbiomes contain roughly 40% more bacterial diversity than the average Americans. More diversity generally means a more resilient, adaptable digestive system, one better equipped to extract nutrients, regulate inflammation, and even influence mood. Since up to 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in the gut. Read that again. The bacteria in your stomach may be quietly running part of your emotional operating system, and modern processed diets have been slowly narrowing that ecosystem for generations. Now let's zoom out to the bigger historical pivot. The moment everything changed. Around 10,000 years ago, humans made a decision that anthropologists still debate as either humanity's greatest triumph or its biggest gamble. Agriculture. The agricultural revolution gave us surplus food, permanent settlements, and eventually civilization itself. But it also gave us something else, a narrower diet. Grains like wheat and rice became dominant staples, and skeletal records from that era show something startling. Early farmers were actually shorter and had more dental disease than their hunter-gatherer ancestors. Some researchers, including biologist Jared Diamond, have gone so far as to call agriculture the worst mistake in human history, not because it didn't work, but because of what it cost human bodies in the short term. Here's a question worth sitting with for a second. If hunter-gatherers were often healthier, taller, and had fewer chronic diseases than early farmers, why did humanity choose farming anyway? Drop your theory in the comments below. I guarantee it's more complicated than more food equals better, and I want to see if your instinct matches what historians actually believe. Fast forward to today, and modern science is circling back to ancestral eating patterns with real curiosity. A 2017 study published in the European Journal of Nutrition found that participants following a Paleolithic-style diet for just 3 weeks showed measurable improvements in blood sugar regulation and reduced inflammatory markers compared to those on standard modern diets. 3 weeks, not a lifetime. 3 weeks was enough for the body to start recalibrating. This is the psychological twist researchers keep hitting on. Modern humans aren't broken. We're mismatched. Our biology is still calibrated for scarcity, movement, and dietary diversity. And we've placed it inside an environment engineered for abundance, stillness, and repetition. Psychologists call this an evolutionary mismatch, and food is arguably where it shows up most violently. It's the same reason a bag of chips feels almost impossible to stop eating, while a bowl of steamed vegetables doesn't trigger the same pull. Your brain isn't weak, it's ancient, running instincts built for a world that no longer exists. And that mismatch is exactly what a caveman-style week would force to the surface. Cravings sharpen, energy dips, then stabilizes. Sleep patterns shift as blood sugar stops spiking and crashing. It's not a gentle experiment. It's a full-body negotiation, with 5 million years of programming. Here's the truth that surprises most people by the end of a week like this. It's not really about the food. It's about the reconnection. By day 7 of eating like a caveman, something subtle but profound tends to happen. People report thinking about food less compulsively, not more. Without the constant availability of snacks, engineered to override natural fullness signals, the brain's reward system starts to quiet down. A 2019 NIH-funded study by researcher Kevin Hall found that people eating an ultra-processed diet consumed roughly 500 more calories per day without even realizing it, compared to when eating minimally processed whole foods, despite both diets offering equal access to food. 500 calories a day disappearing invisibly just from how food is engineered rather than what it contains. That's the real modern implication here. This isn't really about mammoth meat or foraging in a forest. It's about recognizing that the caveman experiment reveals something we've buried under decades of convenience. Our bodies are still asking questions. Our environment stopped answering honestly. Questions like, is this food or is this just flavor? Is this hunger or is this boredom? Is this fullness or did I just stop because the bag ran out? Modern nutrition science isn't asking us to move into caves. It's asking us to borrow the wisdom without the hardship, the fiber diversity, the whole food variety. The natural rhythm of eating, when genuinely hungry instead of when a notification buzzes. Researchers studying blue zones, regions with the world's highest concentrations of people, living past 100, consistently find diets shockingly close to ancestral patterns. Plant-heavy, minimally processed, naturally high in fiber, low in ultra-processed sugar. Okinawa, Sardinia, Icaria, different cultures, different continents, same underlying pattern our ancestors lived by default. And maybe that's the most surprising truth of this entire experiment. Cavemen weren't eating for optimization. They weren't counting macros or chasing wellness trends. They were simply eating what existed, real, whole, unprocessed, seasonal. The tragedy isn't that we've moved away from that. It's that recreating it now requires deliberate effort, discipline, even a whole YouTube experiment, when for 2.5 million years, it was simply normal. So here's the real question this leaves us with. In trying to make life easier, did we accidentally engineer a world our own bodies don't recognize? The convenience is real. The abundance is real. But so is the mismatch quietly playing out in blood sugar spikes, gut inflammation, and cravings we can't fully explain. You don't need to live in a cave to close that gap. But maybe, just maybe, the next time, you're standing in front of a fridge full of options, It's worth asking what a version of you, 10,000 years, ago would actually recognize as food. If this journey into how our ancestors lived, ate, and survived hit different for you, make sure you're subscribed, because next time, we're diving into an experiment even more extreme. What if you lived without electricity for a month? Trust me, it gets wild. Hit that bell, drop a comment with your biggest takeaway from today, and I'll see you in the next one.